welcome back. This next series, we're going to be talking about how you can use charts with Excel. And we're really excited about doing this portion.
It is. This is kind of a fun portion because it's a little bit artistic, and it's just a great way using Excel charts. You can make different kinds of graphs or charts that show different parts of your data, and it's a great way to communicate it.
Especially when you're doing presentations, it's always more useful if you have a graph or a chart, because people are more apt to really look at that and have questions than they would if you had a handwritten report where they don't have as much time and they just skim through it. So it's a really helpful tool.
Yeah, it's like the analysis has already been done of the data, so they don't have to look at the data and analyze it themselves. It's already been analyzed, and they can get the point right away.
It's a great tool for reporting to tribal leadership in a very simple, straightforward manner where lots of words don't need to be read to get the same information.
That makes it doubly important that you definitely, I think the biggest challenge with this is just deciding what kind of chart or graph to use for the kind of data that you want to convey. And we won't go into that too much because there are a lot of resources out there that we could link to that discuss that. But that's it's very important just to be able to have somebody look at that chart and immediately understand the point that you're trying to get across to them. So that is something to keep in mind.
Yeah, and you also get to be really creative with color and making it look interesting and inviting, and you get to put your own touch on it.
Yeah.
I think that makes it more interesting for you also when you're doing it.
Yeah, it's my favorite part. Okay, so are we ready?
Are you ready to go? All right, here we are.
Hello, this is Marlena Evans with the Capacity Building Center for Tribes, and welcome to the technical part of our video on creating charts in Excel. Okay, so we're going to start off here with some fictional data from a fictional tribal child welfare program. And this particular program has taken a look at their fictional data and said, we really want to remove fewer kids from their homes. We want to have fewer kids placed in foster care. We want to keep kids with their families as much as possible. And there's got to be a way to do that. So they came up with a culturally based prevention program, and they started it, let's say, conveniently at the beginning of the federal fiscal year. Maybe they got a grant or something like that. And now they have about a year's worth of data to look at to see how this program has been going. And we can see just from these raw numbers that, this has been going pretty well. Placements have been going down. We're removing about less than half the number of kids that we were at the beginning of the year here, even though the number of reports coming in has stayed relatively consistent. So this is pretty great, and we're going to want to share this with our grant funders, with our tribal council maybe, with community partners. This is just a great story to share with other people. But, people don't really like looking at these raw numbers. They can be just unpleasant to look at and maybe a little confusing. So we want something that they can look at just at a glance and be able to see the story of this program and the result that it's had for the community. So we're going to make a chart, and we'll start by going up to the Insert menu. It's right here next to the Home tab. We'll click on that. And now here in the Insert ribbon, right around the middle of the page, we're going to see all the chart tools. Now this is Excel 2016. If you have a newer version of Excel or an older version, some of these things may look a little bit different, but the basic principles will be the same. So let's start off with the recommended charts feature. That's something nice in this version of Excel. If we click on that, Excel will look at our data and recommend some chart types that it thinks might work for what we want to do. Okay, so this is actually using your live data for these previews, so this is exactly what your chart will look like. So here we're suggesting a nice little line chart, And yeah, this isn't bad. We can see pretty clearly that the number of reports have, stayed the same, gone up and down a little bit. But look at the placements. Starting around February, they consistently go down. So yeah, that really tells the story there. And we can look at this clustered column chart. Yep, that's a little bit less obvious, but it does show the same thing. Oh, that's really pretty. But yeah, that's a kind of an uncommon type of chart. So if you're showing it to somebody not familiar with these kind of charts, that could be a little confusing to figure out. Then we have the stack column charts. Well, that's not bad, but I don't know. I think it's not quite as clear to show the trend that we're looking at. So for this particular example, we're just going to go with a nice classic line chart, and we'll click OK. And there it is. Just that easy. Okay, so you can take this and just, copy it and paste it wherever you want it. But first, you might want to personalize it a little bit and make it look exactly like you want it to look. Now, the most obvious thing is this chart title here. Chart title, that's really generic, and you probably want to change that. So one thing you can do is you can go over here to the chart elements, and we can just turn that off, take the title out. And here you'll see you can also do things like add data labels. That's a little bit messy, so we'll leave those out. And turn other things like, you can turn off the grid lines, things like that. But we'll keep the chart title. And let's change it. But you could just click in the little box, delete what's there, and then come up with another title. Just off the top of my head, I'm going to call this Sorry, I accidentally turned that off, but we can turn that back on. Okay, we're going to call this A Year of Prevention. I'm sure you would come up with a much better title than that, to be sure, but that's all I got right now, so we'll go with that. So the other thing you can do is change the style and the color of your chart. Okay, so as you scroll down here, you click on this little paintbrush, and then it starts on the Style tab, and then you can kind of scroll through these different options and see which one you like the best. So here we have little shapes and points. Here they're just dots to show our data points. That's a little 3D effect, kind of cute. We'll just keep it there for now. And the other thing is you can click here on the Color tab, right next to the Style tab, and it's going to show you a whole bunch of different color schemes. So you can kind of click through those and see how it changes your lines and pick one that you like. Some of them are kind of interesting. Now I'm going to teach you another little trick here, which is that you can change the color of these lines individually to any color that you want. So you just click on that line until it's highlighted with all these little weird dot boxes. I don't know what you call that. And then you go up to Chart Tools to the Format tab right up here at the top. Click on that. And what you're going to want to change is the shape fill and the shape outline. So let's look at this. And what color would we like this to be? Let's go with that nice green for right now. So we don't see the change yet because we haven't changed the outline. But once we change both of them to the green, voila, we have a green line. And then we can also change this one. Shape fill, let's make that that pretty yellow, why not? Okay, and you'll see that the legend down here showing reports and placements, those colors changed along with it once you change these. So you don't need to worry about changing that part. Okay, and once you're done, all you need to do is you click on the whole chart, make sure it's outlined here with these circles, and then you can right click, select copy, and then you can go and paste it into your PowerPoint presentation, into your report documents, wherever it is that you want to use this. You can just paste it in. Okay, I hope that this was helpful, and I would encourage you to look at some of the other data visualization resources that are out there. We'll link to some of those on the Tribal Information Exchange. And as always, feel free to contact us if you have any questions or need any additional assistance. And thank you so much for joining us.
I hope you found this this video helpful and that you did see part of it is really fun to do this creative work. What did you guys think?
I think a picture is worth 1,000 words.
Can't beat that.
Yes. I like the point about on the pie chart, don't use it if it doesn't equal to 100.
Yeah.
Very important to remember.
That's a good tip. That's a
100
good tip.
only for percentages that add up to 100.
Good tip. All right, we're ready for the next series. Come on along with us.